Welcome to Shaped by Faith, where we shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. I've got an exciting guest today with me. She is on the phone. A lot of people know who she is, Michelle McGann. She lives in Florida. She's a professional golfer with a history of some major wins, both as an amateur golfer and in the LPGA tournaments. And since joining the LPGA Tour, Michelle has won 8 professional tournaments and participated in 2 Solheim Cups. She has played golf with presidents and captains of industry, some of the greatest sportsmen and women in history. She is also a huge advocate for type 1 diabetes. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being on Shaped by Faith.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this and getting to spread my word and my life story with so many people out there, and hopefully, by some of the questions I can answer, we will definitely be able to make a difference in some people's lives.
Absolutely. I believe that. Well, I want to talk about your background first. You probably always get asked this question. So how old were you when you picked up your first set of golf clubs?
Well, when I officially had real clubs, I mean, I'm sure I had some plastic ones,
right.
Probably 3, 4, because my dad was a great athlete and he was a good golfer himself. So, but officially it was around 7 or 8. Those years when, I got the real clubs and we're hitting balls and taking lessons. And I actually just found some pictures the other day of me starting, on a mat, and just looking at those inspired me to, get my niece and nephew out there again. And it's just a tremendous game, and I'm so fortunate that I was able to learn at a young age.
Absolutely. It sounds like you and your father have a very good relationship, you playing golf with him and him being a great athlete. And we're going to also bring your mom into this as well. She's a nurse, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to ask you, what did you like and what do you like most about golf?
Well, in the beginning, I enjoyed the challenge of, the lower the score, the better. So that was kind of my goal, is to every age group to play in certain tournaments. You had to shoot a certain score. First, it was making a par. I started on a par 3 golf course, which was amazing because it was manageable for me. It wasn't too long. I could, play it up a little bit more if I had to. So as an 8, 9, 10-year-old, it was amazing because I could achieve success immediately. And I think that that's a goal for everybody starting, no matter what age you are, is set some goals and try to just, work a little bit at a time. It's a game that takes time, which sometimes we don't have a lot of that, but when we do, you make your practice worthwhile. And that's the one thing that I enjoyed doing it, and I could do it by myself. I was an only child for 9 years, so I didn't have a brother and sister to say, hey, come on, let's go play. But my dad would go with me and my mom, and then, I would get dropped off at the golf course, and it was just great. It was safe. The people that owned the golf course, I called them Aunt Sarah, Aunt Jean. One of the sisters ran the course. The other sister was the golf pro. And it was just truly an amazing childhood and great way for me to be outside, to enjoy what I was doing. And every year I got a little bit better.
You obviously did. Who inspired you to be a great athlete and helped influence your career?
Well, both my parents, I would say. I know that we're probably going to touch on my diabetes, too, at some point. But when I was 13, that's when I was diagnosed with diabetes. So, both my parents were instrumental in helping me, because I was the one that always wanted to go to the golf course. So having diabetes and exercising are 2 great ingredients that make your life as a diabetic more manageable. So it was both my parents behind me in everything I did. And like I said, looking back at pictures now, things haven't changed. 42 years later, as I'm 50, with my mom and dad still inspiring me and still being by my side in everything I do. Plus my brother. My brother's 9 years younger, but he was always there supporting me, whether caddying or going to my lessons and playing himself. But it takes a team, and that's what you learn day to day, and everything in life. It's a big challenge that we have ahead of us, and living with diabetes, trying to play a sport at a professional level, you definitely need a good support system, and I was fortunate enough to have that.
It sounds like God blessed you with the perfect parents, just the right parents, and a younger brother who's very supportive of you. Golf takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of discipline, and takes a lot of endurance. And I believe God naturally gifted you, Michelle, with this. I believe that He places within us something or lots of different things that we can use to help one another and to give Him glory. And obviously, you had just the right parents to help you accomplish that and encourage you. I want to ask, November is National Diabetes Awareness Month. I'm so glad you're on Shaped by Faith this month. What led to your diabetes diagnosis?
Well, my mom was a pediatric nurse practitioner, and she was away on a seminar on diabetes, Mother's Day weekend, 1983. And she came home after that weekend on that Sunday and immediately looked at me and told my dad, Michelle's diabetic. And, of course, his initial reaction was, you're crazy. You've been learning about this all weekend. There's no way. And my mom says, no, I know. I can smell the ketones on her breath. I can see visually she's lost, so much weight just in a few days. I was drinking, enormous amounts of liquids, and, going to the bathroom all the time. So I had so many of the symptoms. And I went to her office the next day, the doctor she worked for, and we didn't have blood sugar finger sticks then, so they did a urine test, and I had, ketones in my urine. And I remember going to school, but then my mom coming back to get me, and, I was admitted right to the hospital, and, sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I have no idea what diabetes is. Can I still have my Mountain Dew and slice of pizza at the golf course? And can I still play golf? So
yes.
Those three questions I had, and yes, you can still play golf. Maybe not the Mountain Dew. The pizza we can work on, and off we went. And I can still remember sitting in the hospital that day and learning that I had to give myself a shot. So I had practiced on an orange, and, you look back and you think, you definitely are given the strength. And as I see other young diabetics that I talk to, you can see that some certain kids are unfortunately diagnosed with diabetes, but have that strength to be a great role model for others. And I've just been lucky enough to be able to help some of them, and in return, they will now pay it forward and help others.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us, Michelle, and I hope that speaks to so many people that are listening right now, and they need to also be aware of what's going on in their own bodies, bring awareness to how they're feeling and how they're moving. We need to take a quick break right here, so when we come back, you're going to hear more from Michelle McGann on Shaped by Faith. Everyone stay tuned. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith. We shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. On the phone with me in Florida is Michelle McGann, and as I said when I introed her in the first segment, a lot of people know her. She's a professional golfer with a history of major wins both as an amateur golfer and in the LPGA tournaments. And I would love for you in this segment, Michelle, to also highlight some of those for our listeners. I think it's important to celebrate, and I'm sure you've already celebrated your victories, but just to give people just some idea of what you have done and what you have accomplished. I do want to ask you about your diabetes, and when did you start wearing an insulin pump?
Well, to touch on a few of the victories, I think my most special memory was winning the U.S. Junior Girls Championship, which winning any USGA title is always a highlight. I think, representing, like, living in America and knowing that that's your country's main tournament to win is amazing, to be a USGA champion. So I think was a huge highlight, and then becoming Player of the Year. Mm-hmm. All the wins were amazing. I think always the first one is the best, because the media always wanted to know, when are you going to win? When are you going to win? Why aren't you winning? And, you look and you say, hey, listen, I'm doing pretty good.
Right.
At some point I will win. So it was kind of fun to win the first one, and then after the next week they wanted to know if you were going to win again.
Oh, goodness.
So,
wow.
It was definitely a challenge, but I had 3 great years where I won 7, 8 tournaments, and definitely wonderful. As I look back and I think of some of the challenges I had winning those events and other tournaments that I played in that I could have possibly won, and diabetes kind of got in the way. One thing I always strived to do was to not dwell on the fact that I had diabetes, and if I didn't have an insulin reaction, woulda, coulda, shoulda, that was my life. So I never dwelled on, blaming diabetes, and, you look back now, and I personally know that there were certain events that I definitely probably could have won, but that's what makes us stronger, and we have to move forward now. And now that I'm 50, 2020 was a tough year for all of us, continues to be, and
right.
We hope and pray that next year will be better, and if that's the case, I'll be playing a lot more. As far as being on the insulin pump, I did not have the luxury of using that when I was a junior. Like I said before, we didn't even have the blood glucose to check. You didn't even have a finger prick to tell what your blood sugar was. And you were trying to guess how much insulin you should take on the ketones in your urine. So talk about trying to figure out something just by the color on
wow.
a stick, and then trying to calculate the exercise you were going to do as well. So, I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to thank my mom enough
mm-hmm.
for trying to help with that, because I'm sure I had no idea, and Mom took complete control over that, and I'm so grateful for that. I went on the insulin pump early 2000s, and that at the time I was like, this is unbelievable. Nicole Johnson, who was Miss America, convinced me that it was the best thing to do to keep your blood sugars under control. And now I look, and it's 2020, and I switched pumps again. I'm on, in January I switched over, and it's a complete life changer. The control that you are able to have with I'm on the Tandem T-Slim, and the Tandem T-Slim pump works with the Dexcom G6. And the Dexcom is a continuous glucose sensor, and it monitors your sugar on a minute-to-minute basis. And it truly amazes me every day that I wake up, and unless something out of the usual happens, I wake up with a normal blood sugar every single day. It truly amazes me. I'm grateful every day. Of course, we want a cure, but anybody that's listening, I say that this is the most advanced technology that there is out there right now. And my A1C is 6.1, which I've never had that number. I've been pretty good, and I feel like I've been in amazing control. And I got that result just about a month ago, and it was like, wow, are you sure this is right? And by my numbers that I see every day, of course it is, but sometimes it's hard to believe. So, grateful for all the people that are working to make a difference in our lives.
That's
all the companies that are working so hard, and the scientists to truly make our lives more manageable, more normal. It is just it's a huge blessing.
It absolutely is. I mean, I really believe that God uses medicine and He uses physicians, to help us, especially in the day that we're living. I've been through a couple of open heart surgeries for some holes in my heart. And like from the time I had it when I was 24 to the time I had my second one at 44, I mean, technology had advanced so much. And, I had a much better experience the second time around. And I thank God and the physicians for it as well. I want to ask, at what age did you turn professional?
So I turned professional at 18. I was, 1987, I was Player of the Year. Phil Mickelson and I were Player of the Year together. And he's done okay for himself.
He has.
And he's had some health issues too. So, we both try to use our platform to help others and reach out. But I was planning on going to the University of Miami. I had a full scholarship to pretty much any college I wanted to go to, and chose Miami because they were a good golf team. It was close to home, and they have an amazing medical center down there. So if I got into trouble, I knew that I was in good hands. And kind of at the last minute, I had just come off an experimental program that I was on for 5 years. It was called Cyclosporin, and I didn't take insulin for those 5 years. So it was going to be a challenge. It was going to be a challenge to figure out how I was going to handle schoolwork, how I was going to be able to handle playing, tournaments, missing school, and then I was going back on insulin. So at kind of the last minute, I was like, you know what, maybe I should just try to make the tour now while I have an opportunity. My health is great. And fortunately I did. To say it wasn't a struggle was, it totally was. But it made you stronger. It made my parents, thank God for them, because they hung in there with me and second mortgaged the house and did whatever they had to do to keep my dream alive. And, that's one thing that I continue to say, that I can't thank them enough for everything they have done and continue to do for me, just being there and having the faith that I could do it.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Michelle. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to hear more from Michelle McGann on Shaped by Faith. Everyone stay tuned. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith, where we shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. On the phone with me from Florida is Michelle McGann. She's a professional golfer with a history of major wins as an amateur golfer and in the LPGA tournaments. I love your story, Michelle, how God has used you in so many ways to help others, and you're an advocate for type 1 diabetes. I love that you shared your story, and you just didn't make it sound like it's been all roses and real easy. It's been a challenge and it's been a struggle, but you've kept pursuing your dreams. And your parents and your family has been a big encouragement to you. You've got a great support system. Now I'm going to ask you about your foundation. So what's the purpose behind the Michelle McGann Foundation, and maybe some of the ways that your foundation helps others?
Well, I appreciate the kind words. And my husband and I, we got married in 2010. And, you know, I am really blessed. I'm so lucky to have a mother that happened to be a nurse, diagnosed me right away. The list goes on. Mm-hmm. But Jonathan and I figured we needed to make a difference in those kids' lives that aren't as fortunate as I was. And, diabetes is a big, big challenge. Every day, we're challenged to be almost our own scientist and figure out the formula, what works best for us and might not work best the next day, and what exercise does and what the weather does to your body, and what kind of foods make your sugars go crazy. And it's not the same for everybody. So we figured that if we can create the Michelle McGann Fund, we have a golf tournament that supports our fund, and we're able to send kids to camp that can't afford it. And at camp, they're all over the country, and the kids go and they're with kids that deal with the everyday life of being a diabetic. So for that day, week, however long the camp is, they feel like they're in their own environment and they're comfortable, and they're learning from other kids. They're learning from the counselors. A lot of time, the camp counselors are diabetics as well that come back and they give back. And we also have funded a nurse educator at Nicholas Children's Center, which is right down the street from us. The Nicholases have been family friends for a long time. I grew up playing with their son, Gary, and what they've done is amazing. So we help support the nurse educator that helps the doctor, which the doctor can't live without, because, like I said, diabetes, it's a day-to-day situation. You can eat the same food every day, and all of a sudden one day it could raise your sugar, another day it could lower it. And those are the kind of unknowns that you just think, how does that work, And sometimes you may never find the answer. Sometimes it takes a team to figure it out. And sometimes it could be a week later that you say, oh, you know what? I wasn't feeling great that today. Maybe I was getting a little bug. Maybe that's why my sugars went up. But to have the impact to be able to make a difference in so many young diabetics' lives is truly rewarding for us. We don't have kids, but we feel like all these kids are our extended family, and it's just a little way that we can help make a difference in some of these young diabetics' lives.
Michelle, we could go on and on. I wish I had more time with you. I love it, and I love what you're doing. I love that you're giving back. I love that, you're not living as a victim. You're living in victory, and every day may be a little challenging, but you've got a really great positive attitude, and you're being a positive role model for so many, not only young people, but also older people who may not know what their purpose is in life. And I just want to thank you, and thank you for being my guest on Shaped by Faith.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm glad you said that real quick. This is to all diabetics. It's a day-to-day thing, and if anybody ever needs a little encouragement or extra help, you can always reach out. My website, michellemcgann.com, and I'll see if I can send a smile and send a prayer your way.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. And thank you for listening. I'm Theresa Rowe. Everyone have a blessed day. Bye.